Welcome back to the Fans of the Home Team podcast.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Miranda. This is a podcast that talks about the fun, the drama, and the effects that sports, teams, and athletes bring to the world, whether good or bad.
This is a podcast for people who care about sports in a deeper way than who won or who lost. It's for the people who love the feel-good stories behind teams and athletes and realize that sports are more than a game. Today's episode is in honor of baseball season starting this past month. We've decided to talk about our least favorite Major League Baseball teams of all time. I feel like I have some hot takes in here. We're back on the hot take train.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. With that being said, I think that's where we should dive into our 5 least favorite MLB teams.
I'm gonna hot take this right off the bat. I don't think this is a team that many people actually care about, like have any feelings towards it all, but I personally do. And I think I mentioned it during the franchise episode, but my number 5 least favorite team is the Oakland Athletics.
Interesting. Please explain why, because you said, this was one of those teams I was just like, man.
Okay. Have you ever seen Moneyball?
Of course.
Okay, cool. Well, I just want to make sure we can continue this friendship. Essentially, it's about the Oakland Athletics 2002 season. The GM had to put together an entire team with pennies. And one of his quotes from the movie is, there's rich teams and there's poor teams. There's 50 feet of crap. And then there's us. It's literally the exact same today. Their payroll is nearly the same as it was 20 years ago, around $40 million. They don't want to put up any money. In baseball, there's no salary cap. Like, you can spend $10 if you want on your team. You can spend $1 billion if you want on your players. There's really no right or wrong per se, no number you have to stay under as opposed to any of the other major sports leagues. So the Athletics' entire payroll is less than a couple of individual players in baseball right now. The Mets pay, was it Scherzer, like $43 million?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Literally insane. But still, that's more than the Athletics pay, their entire roster.
That's insanity.
Unbelievable. But they're not the lowest in baseball this year. The Pirates and the Orioles are lower, but the issue is they've been doing it this way for literally forever. And if you're not going to pay to compete, why are you running a team? Why are you trying to get fans to actually care about you? Their attendance is always one of the lowest, so the fans are like done with it. And if you're not going to spend money, you're not going to make money. So just follow the Raiders, go to Las Vegas, sell it to somebody who actually gives a shit, and move on. So I'm mad about this year. Have
the owners ever like what do they say? They just don't care? Like they don't want to put money towards it? Like, what is the reasoning?
Yeah, they just don't want to spend the money usually. Or maybe they don't have the money. They're not as rich as some of these other owners.
I don't know. Like, if you're not going to even try to compete, what's the point?
There's too much that goes into it to not try and compete.
I feel for if there are Oakland Athletic fans, I don't know. I've never met one, but I feel for them because I would be so frustrated with my team. If it's happened to the Mets, for example, for ongoing years, I don't know if I would be able to continue to root for them, because there's a difference between having a shitty team and having shitty things happen to your team, because that's literally what happens to the Mets all the time. But if your ownership isn't even trying to better themselves or trying to work through the issues or putting in some sort of effort, why am I rooting for you and paying to go see your games?
I'm fighting for the 3 Oakland Athletic fans right now, I feel like. Because this is absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand how you could back a team like this. I'm not paying $10 to see your game if you're not going to spend even the league average in terms of payroll. I'm not going to see you go 70 and 110 or whatever it is every year. Bye.
When you first said the Oakland Athletics, I was like, why? Obviously, because I just have no feelings towards them whatsoever. They're just one of those teams I honestly forget exists. But now I feel this. They might be my number 6 least favorite team.
It has absolutely nothing
to do. It makes sense.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the players or the fans or the people that work for the team, except for the owner. It's just I'm just mad at the owner.
If anything, we're trying to fight for Oakland Athletics fans. We're on your side. We understand your frustrations. Get your shit together.
Exactly. You're welcome, by the way. This might change the course of your entire team. So you never
send
know.
This to the Oakland Athletics owner. Oh my God. Well, I think this was a good one. shockingly, because at first like I said, I was like, what? But no, this totally makes sense. And I think all your facts are reasonable reasons to not enjoy this team. Basically, all my least favorite teams are teams that have either affected the Mets, are in our division, or like, I guess one of them I just like don't like at all. But my number 5 least favorite team is the Kansas City Royals. It's literally all because of the 2015 World Series, and they took that away from the Mets. Obviously, the Mets are also at fault. I think it's pretty natural that any team who beats your team in the championship, you're going to hate. So I don't like the Kansas City Royals. The 2 players I literally could not stand on this team were Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas. I still don't like them to this day. I think they're so annoying, and I just think they think who they are, and I don't like that. Even though I don't know them personally whatsoever, just watching them through, like, I will never forget just them celebrate. Obviously, they're going to celebrate. They won the World Series, but it makes me mad. Like, it literally makes my blood boil, and I hate them. And they took one of my favorite sports players, athletes of all time, is David Wright. And that was David Wright's last chance, really, to win a World Series. And they are part of the reason why it never happened for him. So I hate the Kansas City Royals. And they're number 5 because, like, y'all are irrelevant. I don't think they've had a winning record probably since 2015. So that's my number 5 least favorite team.
This is all you. I have no feelings towards the Kansas City Royals whatsoever.
I honestly think most people don't, unless you're a Mets fan.
They really did fall off the wagon pretty hard after this World Series too. Like,
yes. Yeah, like immediately sucked. And I'm like, okay, just of course, a part of the Mets luck is like the 1 year. I think before 2015, they had a few good seasons, but really 2015, it was just like, okay, made it to the World Series, crushed. And then 2016, immediately go back to sucking.
The Cubs should have been in the World Series that year anyway, but it's fine, Miranda, no worries. I'm glad that we...
So then you should hate the Kansas City Royals.
No, I should hate the New York Mets for being the round before.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh, true.
That would have been tough for our friendship.
I'm like jogging series. My memory. Yeah, back then. I'm glad we weren't friends. Yes. We didn't even know each other. We were still in undergrad of college.
That's true. So that could have been tough, but it's fine.
Yeah, let's just hope the Cubs and Mets never face each other in the postseason.
That seems likely considering the direction of the Chicago Cubs at this point. So
and I was gonna say, we are only in what year of our friendship? We became friends in 2019.
What are you talking about?
Or no, not 2019. 2017.
Yeah.
And like we have forever. So I'm saying like it's likely to happen eventually over the course of our friendship.
Dang, we'll have to do a React podcast when that happens.
When we're like 65 years old. We'll listen back to this part and be like, oh shit.
And yeah, we'll just be fighting for like 2 weeks straight. It's fine.
It's fine. It'll be the greatest test of our friendship.
My number 4 least favorite team is the New York Yankees. I feel like this is low on the list compared to where most people would put the New York Yankees. I see where you put them. So yeah, it's a little bit low compared to you. I feel like this is just one of those things, like how people don't like Alabama or they don't like the Lakers. Like, they're successful. They're a lucky team. Their fans act accordingly because of those things. And they're just annoying. Like, it's just nothing I want to be around. That being said, I feel like I do have respect for the team, the history of the team. I did work for the Yankees for their spring training back in, 2018 down in Tampa. So it's really cool to be around the history. And they've obviously shaped the game of baseball a lot just as an individual organization. But I think I just more so just don't like their fans, and their fans always end up being bandwagons of other teams too. So just whatever. And they're very lucky. And my dad's a Red Sox fan. So I'm obliged to put them on this list no matter what.
I'm going to wait in my feelings about the Yankees because like you said, they're on my list and I have many reasons to hate them. All the reasons that you included on here, but they suck and I absolutely despise this team, but I'll give my reasons later on.
Sounds good. You seem to have a lot of passion about it. So
I do. And I'm holding it in because I don't want to give too much away yet. Because then,
all right,
which our next team is the same, but I just have it a little higher than yours.
That's fine. Let's shit talk them.
Perfect. Can't wait. So my number 4 least favorite team is the Los Angeles Dodgers. I just hate everything about this team. Like I feel like this is honestly like a pretty recent hatred, like probably in the last 10 years that I've started hating them. Literally the only thing I like about this team is Clayton Kershaw, only because I feel for the guy. I don't really feel for him anymore, actually, because he won a World Series. So you know what? I take that back. I don't care. I don't like this team at all anymore. At first, I felt for him because it was like a David Wright, like he was just one of those guys that I'm like, oh, yeah, it would be nice for him to win. Too bad you're on the Dodgers, but he got his World Series, so he can suck it too. I just think they're annoying. Like when they're on my TV screen, I don't like them. I don't like anything about them. I think that people and their fans like think it's just cool to like the Dodgers. Like, I don't know if obviously they have like a long history and their stadium is cool and stuff like that. But I just think that like, it's just the cool team to like the hot item at the time, like currently. And I just also don't like them because they beat the Rays in the 2020 World Series. I live in St. Pete, so obviously I was rooting for the Rays. I'm always, for the most part, like rooting for the underdog, and the Dodgers aren't an underdog. So I don't like them.
You know what's crazy about baseball in LA is you have the Dodgers, who's like obviously like the bandwagon team, like everybody loves. They're kind of like the Lakers. And then there's the Angels, which you don't even think about the fact that they're in LA.
And they literally have the greatest baseball player of our generation.
They have him and they have Ohtani as well, who's like obviously has the potential to be one of the greatest baseball players of all time too. But people still over there choose to root for the Dodgers. And I don't understand. Because
it's the trendy thing to do. And once again, because I think I've shit on this city in every single episode we've recorded, LA sucks. Obviously, all of these episodes with our opinions are biased because it's our opinions. I've never gone to a Dodgers fan to like experience the fandom or Dodgers game to experience the fandom firsthand. I would love to interview some Dodgers fans. That'd be sick. My Poppy was a huge Brooklyn Dodgers fan. Like that's what who he grew up rooting for. That was his baseball team. And my family has like my brother and like my cousins and stuff. They have like Brooklyn Dodgers hats and things like that because that history is really cool. And that was something that was very influential and big in my Poppy's life. But obviously when the Dodgers left, then we became Mets fans because you're not going to become a Yankees fan. It's crazy to think about just like the fact that this team moved had such a big influence in my life.
That's actually crazy to think about. I think it's another reason why I don't really vibe much with the Dodgers or the Giants even. I mean, to pick up and move your team all the way across the country, like two very prolific teams. Yeah. It's not like they're in struggling cities. It's not like the Oakland A's pack up and go somewhere. This is like two major brands are just like, see ya, we're going to California.
Yeah, like what was the reasoning? And again, they had such like profound history. Ebbets Field, like they were, like you said, not a struggling team. Like they had a strong fan base. My Poppy used to talk about how the games were like sold out every single time. Like, and you just decided to leave and broke the heart of so many of your fans.
Y'all some traitors. So
yeah, 100%. You went from New York to LA, which disgusting. Which clearly, if you don't know this, we're very East Coast biased. So
that's true. I feel like our favorite cities they're literally all on the East Coast.
I've only lived on the East Coast, so
same. That's the only coast I would live on. So
yeah, true. Like, could you imagine having to move to LA and like the time change, like, or California? I mean,
the time change is what you're worried about, not just like fact that we would be homeless if we.
Yeah, I mean that too. The fact that it costs like $1 million and your taxes are just through the roof.
This went off tangent. Where the whole city. Bye.
I could do a whole episode on why LA is shitty, and I've only been there once.
5 days to be exact.
And only interacted with our classmates. Like, didn't even interact with LA people. We went to a sports organization. I'm not gonna say which one. And there was a woman there who's very successful and like good on her, but I didn't vibe with a lot of the workers, if that makes sense. Like the people who worked in sports.
Yes, but also, do you remember that day we didn't eat for like freaking 10 hours?
Yes, I do remember that.
That was the worst
honestly,
part.
Maybe that's a part of it as well, is I was so hangry on the day when we visited this certain sports organization. The woman basically, and again, like, it's hard, and we'll have an episode on this, but it's hard to be a woman working in sports. It's hard to be a woman having a career, especially if you want family and kids and this and that. But she basically was just like, yeah, like you just have to put your kids aside and dedicate everything to your career. And that's just not my vibe. Like, we were asking her questions because these are like young professionals and we're trying to seek advice and this and that. And she really didn't provide tangible answers, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like she only heightened our anxiety and our nervousness about entering the sports industry.
I would be lying if I didn't say that I don't remember a single thing except for being hungry at this venue. I was literally bitching about the entire time.
Oh my God.
I don't think our hotel had breakfast.
I don't remember why we didn't eat, but I remember when we finally sat down to eat, like everyone was scarfing everything down in like minutes.
We looked like rabid homeless dogs, basically.
Yeah, like we had 2 long tables and we were just like scarfing every single thing they put down in front of us.
Yeah.
And that was a long day.
We were seriously there. They took us to like 100 different venues.
Yeah, that was like a long day because the place we went to, it was sports teams, but also event space. And then we went to that other place. Like, it was a lot. I know that the sports industry and just having a professional career and all of that, like, it takes a lot of work. Like, obviously, I think there is a certain amount you need to dedicate to that. But I just don't like the people who are like, this is my life and this is what it is. And I don't have a life outside of my work or my career.
Hence why Miranda and I no longer work in sports and just do a podcast about sports.
Because we're so passionate about sports and we love it, but
not that much.
Just not going to dedicate my entire, if I'm lucky, 100 years on this earth to a career that is not the best.
My number 3 team was also the Dodgers. I think we have covered this pretty good. We both don't like them and we both don't like LA. So the end. So if you want to go to your number 3 team.
I also like how you put, though, that a little bit like the Yankees, always in the mix.
Yeah, it's annoying. I'm over it.
Same. Like, that's why I think that the hatred has developed in the last like 10 years.
Yeah, I don't want to watch them anymore. They're a boring team to watch. So I'm over it.
So we'll go to my number 3 least favorite team, which is the Washington Nationals. They're a division rival for the Mets. A lot of the next 2 are similar. They're division rivals for the Mets. And I feel like the rivalry really just started to like get more intense again in the last like 10 years, especially when they had Scherzer, but now we have him. So suck it. And I think that they just always seem to be an issue for the Mets and always seem to be in the mix too. Like, they're just always there and it's annoying and I don't like them. And I think a big part of my hatred started from Bryce Harper being on the Washington Nationals because I can't stand Bryce Harper. I don't like him as a player. I think I can respect him for his talent, but I've just never been a fan of him. Like, I feel like earlier on, there was always the argument like Bryce Harper versus Mike Trout. And I'm like, Mike Trout all day, every day. Like, I think that dude is like, I think they're both talented, but I just think Mike Trout's more talented. And he's also just seems more like a genuine dude and like a good guy too. Whereas Bryce Harper, I just feel like has a big head and I don't like him. And I also don't like the Nationals because they won the World Series. Like, the one thing that you could always hold over the Nationals is like, well, you've never won a World Series. And now that they won, I'm just like, oh, I hate you even more. So they're always going to be in the mix. They're in the same division as the Mets. It's just going to be a team that Mets are constantly facing. So they're my number 3 least favorite team.
I don't like the Nationals either. Not enough to put them on my list, but we were really young when they moved from Montreal, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
young.
okay. Let's just add to it as well because I liked the Montreal Expos when we were
Me
kids
too.
because they had a sick logo and sick colors. I also really like the Montreal Expos because of Vladimir Guerrero too. And I think that they just had so many iconic players. And I think that it was when we were pretty young, but I also think that he might have been in backyard baseball in
He was.
Expos.
Yes, he
In
was.
Expos. Yeah, and that's why I loved him. So just another reason to hate the Nationals.
Yeah, that's like my main reason. I mean, they're the NL, so the Cubs were facing them in the playoffs and stuff when we were like, making that 3-year run when we were actually in the playoffs. So I'm not about them either, but I really don't have any other reasons besides for those 2 things.
Well, I think that was a great added point. So
You're welcome.
thank you.
This is where things start to get a little bit heated for me because we're now into the Cubs division rivals at this point. So my number 2 least favorite team is the Milwaukee Brewers. This rivalry is so toxic for absolutely no reason. But anyway, they deliberately throw at Cubs players constantly, all the time. We've had 1 series so far this year. It's already been a shit show. Our catcher, Wilson Contreras, has been hit by the Brewers pitcher 15 times in his career, which is unbelievable.
That's disgusting.
They've hit us 27 times since 2020. Just themselves. A Brewers pitcher hit one of our batters, and so the Cubs pitcher hit one of their batters in turn. It's only fair. Bench is cleared. Our pitcher and our manager got suspended. No Brewers player has been suspended for hitting Cubs players. So I'm pretty.
That's sus.
It's sus as hell. And at the end of the day, they're not our biggest rival. The Cardinals are our biggest rival, but we're their biggest rival. So they act up. They act out of place because of it. It's like little brother mentality.
They act out of place. Get back in line, okay?
They don't know their place in the division. But any Brewers game in Milwaukee where the Cubs are playing, there's more Cubs fans up there. We own them. We own their team. We own their city. So they just need to sit down and shut up.
So suck it. You have the Milwaukee Bucks, okay?
Yeah. Take the Bucks. Try and get an NHL team and shut up.
Yeah. And if you don't know what that means, listen to our last episode on expansion teams. I totally feel this. I honestly forgot that one of the reasons I also hate the Nationals is because of the hit by pitch situation. Because this year they were our opening series and the amount of hit by pitches from the Nationals pitchers to the Mets players was absolutely ridiculous. And again, like benches clearing situations. And I think any situation where your team is the one hitting the other team, like there's a problem. Like you can't tell me that just happens accidentally like 15 times by one guy. Like, come on. To the same team.
You're right. You're toxic.
Yeah. And like you said, have hit Cubs 27 times since 2020. We're in 2022. Like, come on. That's unacceptable behavior.
Ban the whole team.
But seriously, like that, there are intentions behind those pitches then.
You're professional athletes. Like you can control where the pitch goes more than enough times not to not hit us that many times. It's intentional every single time.
Oh, I completely agree. I really didn't even know about the Brewers/Cubs rivalry.
It really picked up when the Cubs started being good, like 8 years ago.
Interesting.
It picked up a little bit. They really didn't like that.
Honestly, the Milwaukee Brewers are one of those teams where I'm forget about them.
Unless you're like an NL Central team, you don't care about the Milwaukee Brewers.
Didn't they have Prince Fielder?
Yeah.
Yep, that's the only time.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then I also hate Ryan Braun, Mr. PED. So suck it.
So suck it. I think this is a good one, obviously, because of the natural rivalry, which leads me to my number 2 least favorite team, which is the Philadelphia Phillies. And if this is your first time listening to an episode, I don't like any team in the state of Pennsylvania. They're usually my least favorite teams. I am a New York Giants fan, can't stand the Philadelphia Eagles. The city of Philadelphia, their fans are wild. Like, they are intense, and I'm probably going to get hunted down by them, which is fine. Please don't hurt my dogs. I didn't realize that this was a real thing until Derek told me, like, when you go to a Philadelphia team game, Flyers, Phillies, Eagles, you're not really supposed to wear your opposing team's stuff because, like, they will not physically assault you, but like berate you, throw garbage at you. Like, you could get physically assaulted. And I thought Derek was messing around with me when he told me that. And that is absolutely insane and absolutely wild and vile. That's just disgusting. I think that's so rude. The whole point of sports and having all these different teams and rivalries and all of this stuff is it's supposed to be fun. Like, it's okay that not everyone is a Philadelphia Phillies fan, okay? Like, if those fans aren't bothering you or whatever, like, just leave them alone. Like, it's the whole fun and everything in sports is to have different opinions and thoughts. Like, that's the whole reason we have this podcast. I don't like the Philadelphia Phillies. I never have. They've always, like, been a problem for the Mets, more so back in the day. Like, I just remember, I feel like now it's really like become Mets Nationals. But back in the day, like the Chase Utley era, Ryan Howard, all of that, it was always like Mets Phillies. Like, it was a huge rivalry. And again, we will always be rivals. Like, there's just such a history there. I hate Chase Utley. I think he's probably one of my least favorite baseball players of all time. I can't stand that man. Just something about his face pisses me off. So I don't like him. I don't like the team. Their colors, I don't like red. Like, it's just like such a punchable team. It's just such a like history of rivalry with the Mets. But when Phillies fans are in like Citi Field or even Shea Stadium, like, yeah, I'm sure there's probably some rude Mets fans, but for the most part, like, we're not going to berate you and be so damn rude to you. So I just think there's like a level of respect that's lacking with all Philadelphia sports franchises. And again, the Bryce Harper of it all. Like, it was when I saw that he was going to be, like, the rumors were swirling that he was going to be traded from the Nationals. Like, finally, get this man out of at least our division. Like, just get him out of here. Get him out of the National League. And then, of course, he goes to the Phillies, which, again, still in the Mets division. And he's just, again, a talented player. Like, I will give him that. But he's just one of those players that you're always, like, holding your breath when he comes up to bat. I just don't like the Philadelphia Phillies. I think they're annoying. And the only player I ever liked on the Phillies was Ryan Howard.
Philadelphia is such a weird sports city.
It really is.
I've been there multiple times just because my sister lives there. Like, I've been to an Army-Navy game where the Eagles play, and I've been to a Phillies game as well. I feel like the Phillies are like the most tolerable of the 4 teams there. Like, the Eagles are absolute. I could talk for years about how much I hate the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't like the 76ers like at all either. There's just something weird about a city that consistently boos its own players. Dudes who are booing like Donovan McNabb. Mm-hmm. That's wild to me. Like, that's a sign of a toxic toxic fan base. And that's really what Philadelphia is.
There isn't even that level of respect to your own team and players. So then so obviously there is even more of a lack of respect between fans and the rival fans. Any sports facility where you can't show up as yourself, and I'm not talking about like Phillies versus Mets and you show up in a Braves jersey. Like, I hate that shit too. That makes no sense to me. But I'm talking about if it's a Phillies Mets game and someone shows up in a Mets jersey, like, just be respectful. If you can't show up to a game in a city and feel safe, there's a problem.
Yeah, there's only a couple places where it's like that. Like, living in Columbus, like, I don't like walk down the streets with like my Michigan stuff on. Like, I'm not trying to get like slashed here. And I won't wear my Cowboy stuff in Philadelphia.
I think that's crap. I really think that's crap.
Well, we gotta think of ourselves here.
Well, yeah, obviously, I know, but that's insane to me. Like, that's something I can't even wrap my head around, because as a transient person in like Tampa, St. Pete, who is a New York sports fan, I've shown up to Lightning games in my Rangers jersey. I've shown up to Rays games in my Mets jerseys. And I would say, at least from my experience, and I know everyone has their own experiences, the fans are pretty respectful. Like, yeah, you have that natural banter and shit talking. That's what makes it fun. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not worried that someone is going to assault me outside the stadium or throw garbage at me or whatever. And that's how it should be. Like, that's what sports are about. If everyone was the fan of the same team, like, that would be so boring. We wouldn't be here.
It'd be weird.
Yeah, like, that would be so awkward.
Most cities are totally fine, but like, there's just some, whatever. I'm just gonna like not put myself in a position where I don't want to be put in.
And again, even on the flip side, I've gone to plenty of Mets games and even a few Rangers games where like people are wearing the opposing jerseys. This is just from my observations. Like, I haven't seen any issues or disrespect or whatever. Like, there's that natural competitive spirit in sports because obviously you want your team to win. But I think should also be a level of respect between all sports fans because we're all enjoying a shared experience together at the end of the day.
If you're one of those people who talk shit to strangers wearing the opposing team's jerseys, please seek help. It's weird and no one likes you for it, I promise.
When I was younger, I feel like it was like a lack of immaturity, lack of maturity, you know,
mature.
Just so mature. But now that I'm older, I really am not going to be like talking shit, especially if I'm a Mets fan at a Rays game, for example, like home in St. Pete. I'm not going to come in there talking shit. And I would expect the same level of respect from a Rays fan visiting the Mets. I don't know. I don't understand it. I only think it should be allowed if someone starts it with you first.
Oh, if you start it with me, we'll go. But...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. Like, if someone starts in, then that's okay. But again, that's like fighting words. Like, you're not going to be putting your like physical, you should never put your hands on another person no matter what.
Literally, don't touch me, please. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of another place where I wouldn't wear opposing teams' clothes, my number one least favorite team. This is my number one least favorite team, maybe in all of sports. Maybe. I don't know. I'd really have to sit down and think about it, but it's one or two.
I really have to sit down and think about it.
But in baseball, the worst team, and I will not take any other answer for this one, is the St. Louis Cardinals. This is the Cubs' biggest rival. We talked about the Brewers and their little baby
their fake stuff. Rivalry.
Yeah, the fake rivalry. But anyway, this is the real rivalry in terms of Midwest baseball. If you don't have a reason to hate the St. Louis Cardinals yet, please go to Twitter and type in @BestFanSt. because you will see thousands of tweets of St. Louis Cardinals fans being racist, homophobic, and just overall shitty people. And it's all in one place for you to find. And I want to say this. I don't have an issue with the Cardinals players or ownership or people that work for the team. This is solely based off of the shit that their fans do on a regular basis. So, you know, when teams post like pride nights and stuff, like we're going to have this pride night. That's a whole other topic. But
yeah,
anyway.
I was going to say, you mean their, what's it called when you really just do it just to do it?
Oh, the check the box thing?
Yeah. There's like a fancier word for it, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
we honestly should do an episode.
Oh, yeah.
About that. Performative allyship.
Yeah, let's please write that down. We'll do that sometime soon. So usually these posts, when they announce Pride Nights, do not pass 5 checks. For a lot of teams, it's like gross. The Cardinals definitely do not pass the 5 check. I check it every year. It is always the worst, most homophobic comment section that there is, especially on Facebook, because that's where all the oldies are at. So
all the oldies. That should be Facebook's new logo. Sign up for Facebook. It's where all the oldies are at.
I'm so good at marketing. On another note, in 2014, an officer in St. Louis killed like a Black unarmed teenager, as what happens in America a lot. But there were Cardinals fans that legit made t-shirts that said "Go Cardinals" on them with the officer's name on the back of
You're
the shirt.
kidding.
No, dude, you can look it up. It's a real thing. It really happened.
That is bullshit.
Right. Find another team that's happened with. There is not one.
That's disgusting.
Bob Gibson, who's super famous Cardinals pitcher, one of the best in their organization, has also spoken out against racism he's received from fans. Even though this dude's one of the best pitchers and players they've ever had, he's had issues with their fans. Dexter Fowler went from the Cubs to the Cardinals after 2016, which he shouldn't have done. I'll say, don't go to a division rival in terms of free agency, but whatever. So
it happens.
I know it's annoying, but it does happen. He was asked about Trump's travel ban back then against Iran because his wife is actually from Iran. So he was just like, oh, it's unfortunate, and was pretty PR about the whole thing. But the amount of racist comments that Cardinals fans were putting on their fan pages and Facebook pages were pretty gross, just from a dude calling like some policy unfortunate because like he's supporting his wife's nationality.
Yeah, we appreciate a supportive husband.
Exactly. Well, I guess not in St. Louis, but St. Louis wise, please take note. Anyway, I just want to say not every Cardinals fan sucks. There's these issues in every fan base, but in terms of any, like you cannot find a sports team fans that are more problematic than the St. Louis Cardinals. So that's why I hate them. Number one.
The Cardinals are probably actually like my number 6 least favorite team because I just never liked them. I did not know all of this stuff, which makes me like hate them even more. It's awkward that I'm like gonna tell Derek he needs to cover up his Cardinals tattoo.
Oh, I forgot he's got the
but it's like more sentimental because Derek and his family is from St. Louis, Missouri. Like he was born there, so was his sister, and then his parents like grew up there too. So they grew up like going to Cardinals games, and him, his dad, and sister have like a Cardinals tattoo. So it's sentimental, but they like at least Derek, he really doesn't root for the Cardinals anymore. Like he likes to say like, oh yeah, like I'm a fan of that, but no. And now I'm gonna be like, you really can't root for them.
Take your tattoo off, you're done.
That shit is wild. I did not know any of this. That's very problematic. Again, I don't have the answers on how you would even like, and I don't think you should have to control a fandom. That's just a whole nother topic. But like, what is I didn't even know St. Louis was like such a like racist city.
There's some issues. I don't go there, so it doesn't seem to be the place for me.
No, I think that this is very deserving of your number 1 least favorite team and number 1 hated team.
Very deserving. Sorry to the nice Cardinals fans, but
yeah,
there's too many trash.
I think that all of this again is just our opinion and based off our experience, and we're not trying to lump everyone together because I've met some great fans from all over like different sports teams, but there's some problems.
Just a tad bit.
As I kind of alluded to earlier in the episode, my number one least favorite team, number one hated team. And like similar with you and the Cardinals, this might be my least favorite team like in all of sports. There's definitely like some teams in the NFL that I hate as well. This team just grinds my gears. I really think it might be them and UF that are like my two least favorite teams, like sports franchises ever. And it is the New York Yankees. Again, no surprise because I'm a New York Mets fan. Similar reasons to what you said earlier, but I just think that their fans are awful. I think that a good amount of Yankees fans I don't enjoy. And again, there's cases of Yankees fans that I've gotten along with and think are great people. Shout out to J Mike. Go check out our interview. I think it also a large part of it is because I was born and like grew up for a portion of my life in New York. And just as a child, like experiencing being a Mets fan versus a Yankees fan. And especially during that time period when like the Yankees were still like on their height and then all of that stuff. I enjoy being the underdog. Like I said earlier, I usually root for the underdog in most situations. It's also tough being the underdog. And I think that the Yankees are just one of the luckiest teams I've ever seen in my entire life. It's interesting because like I experienced a city where there were like multiple sports franchises going on for pretty much all the sports there. And it's just like a thing, like growing up in New York, you're either like this team or that team. Like, it's not like you're rooting for both of them, obviously, because that would be absolutely ridiculous. So it's just like, you're a Mets fan, you hate the Yankees. You're a Yankees fan, you hate the Mets. Maybe, I don't know. I don't even know why you would hate us personally, but again, bias. And still the Mets are like looked down upon and Mets fans are looked down upon. I think the tides are changing like in the past like 10 years or so. Things are slowly like coming up for the Mets. But if you are not a Mets fan or don't know anything, like just search the history of the Mets and like all of the wild shit that's happened to us. Like, I've never seen a sports franchise that has just had like not only unlucky times, but just like absolutely ludicrous things blow up or things happen, like even to the point of like Mr. Met flicking off fans. Like, are you like just, it's just ridiculous. But again, and this we can talk about later, is one of the reasons why I love the Mets. But I just think that the Yankees think they're better. And they think that just because they won 27 World Series, that they're like the greatest sports franchise of all time. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about it. It's annoying. You haven't won since 2009. Every time they go to the postseason or every time they go to the World Series, it's like dynasty, 27 World Series. Like, we get it. We understand it. I respect your history, but the times are different. Like, stop bringing it up. I don't know how many times I have to hear about it. I think, like you said, you respect the history of the team. And I definitely respect like, and think it's cool, like all the big players that came out of there and just like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, like all of that. That's so sick. They're one of those teams. And again, this is why I don't like UF either, where there's so many people who rock their merchandise who aren't even Yankees fans. And that shit pisses me off. I don't know why. It just makes me mad. It always has. Like, it just irks me the wrong way. And it's just like, you can see Yankees stuff for sale everywhere. And I'm sure that goes into more of like the business side of things, but you can't just walk into a Walmart in Florida and find a Mets hat, but you can find a Yankees hat. Like, that's trashy to me. I don't know. I never understood that. I've been lucky enough to never step foot into their stadium, both the new and the old one. But I just know it's garbage. I know that Citi Field is far superior, especially to their current stadium. I've seen like so many Yankees fans like pissed off about their stadium, their new stadium. And there's like so many points of like viewing obstructions where you can't even see part of the field and this and that. And it's exhausting to hear like the same reasoning over and over again. The Mets are I don't know. I feel like they've grown up and they're just growing as a franchise and trying to be better. And I feel like their time is coming. And I don't even know if Yankees fans really hate Mets fans. I'm not really sure the flip side of it. I could never, ever, 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 ever root for this team. Like, there's just no way in the history of my life that I will root for this team. And like I said, my poppy grew up being a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, and when they left, he didn't jump on the Yankees bandwagon because he knew, like, he's like, I can't root for this team. And he became a New York Mets fan. So I also think that they just get a lot more credit than they deserve, especially now, like in our generation, like in the past few years. I don't know. I don't like their uniforms, their iconic pinstripes. Like, no, I don't like their colors. I don't like anything about them. I think that this team, I just don't like them. I never will. It just irks me.
I think they spend an exorbitant amount of money recently for absolutely no results.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you have Aaron Judge, what's his name? Stanton, like all of these guys that what's going on?
There's absolutely no reason you shouldn't be able to win with this team, but they just don't. And it's a lot of, like you said, reliance on the past and what Babe Ruth did in 1927. Like, we're 100 years past that. Exactly. Like, let's move on.
Exactly. I just don't know. Like, again, I think it's important to respect the history and understand, like, but we get it. We've heard it countless times over and over again. So the only argument that Yankees fans ever have is like, oh, well, we won 27 World Series. Like, sick, but this is 2022. Like, are you going to win this World Series? Like that? I just feel like they're always reflecting on the past. And again, I've never experienced a dynasty in any of my franchises, but I just don't think that, like, I would bring it up all the time when I don't, like, you weren't alive for most of those. And like, that's your only argument.
I've never experienced any dynasty either. I feel like I should have with the Cubs, but that's another story. But I've never experienced it either. But it seems weird to me to have a team that's so successful, and this is just because I have never had one. But like, isn't it boring after a while to not go through any shit?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're just a lucky team.
Like, no book or movie is like sunshine and rainbows. The whole book, it's not fun. No one watches that.
No, that's boring.
It's boring. I have been to Yankee Stadium, the new one. I don't even know at this point, 10 years ago. I've never been to Citi Field because the game we were going to go to got rained out, so I was pissed. But anyway, the new Yankee Stadium I can't imagine tearing down a stadium where all these players played in. You're not going to respect where they played. Like, that's like if you tore down Wrigley or Fenway Park, and I cannot imagine the backlash that would come from those two either. I would be so upset if they tore down Wrigley. It'd be unbelievable. And it's not like they didn't build something that was better than what everybody else in the major leagues had. It's an average stadium. So
yeah. And Citi Field is far superior. So
they're completely all about money at this point, and the money they take and put towards the team doesn't even go towards anything good. So like, what are we doing here?
Well, that's what I was going to say too. I feel like for a while, the Yankees are the reason why, like, every other baseball team kept having to spend more money to try to compete with the Yankees.
They're the reason we have the Dodgers at this point.
Yeah, 100%. You said you're spending all this money for what? And you're just spending it I feel like, just to flex your muscles and be like, oh, well, we can spend this money. One of my other favorite teams is the Rays. So obviously the Yankees and Rays are in the same division. And also, like I mentioned before, it's natural to hate a team who took a World Series win away from you. So when the Mets and Yankees played each other in 2000, I don't like you.
So much hate.
Yeah, I could go on and on about Yankees fans. And I just think from my own experience, it's just a lack of respect in some regards. Like, they just look down upon Mets fans like, oh, you'll never beat us. Like, we've won 27 World Series. And it's like, you're probably right. I don't know if we'll ever reach 27 World Series, but how long are you going to hold that over every team's head? And also, like, some of those World Series, like, wasn't as at the level of competitiveness that the MLB is at now.
It's
like, there's a
world.
reason you haven't won since 2009.
If the Cubs have won a World Series more recently than you, I don't want to hear you talking. So,
yeah, exactly. They always start the season like talking shit, even if they make the postseason. They just like automatically assume that they're going to win. And I've never ever experienced that feeling with any of my teams. I've never gone into it and been like, yeah, we're winning this, and just been like so calm, cool, collected. I hate it. I hate that.
I'm a naturally like realistic person, and I know for a fact that like the odds of my team just winning is already so low, and the fact that I root for teams that aren't very good makes it even lower. So yeah. I never feel like that at all.
No, most of the time I'm going in expecting disappointment, hoping for not to be disappointed, obviously, but like, it's more so going in with hope. And I don't think, like you said, Yankees fans, again, I don't know, come on, prove us wrong, have ever experienced that. So
except J Mike's the GOAT.
I love J Mike. He's a great dude. And I think it's super cool that his dad was a chaplain, and his story is really awesome. So definitely listen to it. And again, like Kelsey prefaced before, like with the Cardinals, like there are great fans in all sports organizations. And there's so many sports fans in the US and around the world. Like, we've probably only had like an experience with 1% of sports fans, you know?
There's probably someone out there making a podcast just absolutely taking shots at Cubs and Mets fans right 100%, now. So.
which is fine. And I respect it, because that's, again, going back to it, the whole fun of sports. And I just think that Yankees fans are fun suckers.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Next week, we're doing an interview with Phoenix Suns fan Aaron Hannon, since it's NBA playoff season.
Check out our link tree, which you can find in the description of the episode. This is our one-stop shop, as always, for you to find all of our social media accounts, and also sign up to share your fandom story with us. Like we said, if you have any opinions on our favorite or least favorite, let us know. If you want to come on and defend your, like, our least favorite teams and defend your team, like, let us know. We'd love to have your story.
And so you don't miss any of our upcoming podcasts, subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening on. We're making a big push for reviews on Apple Podcasts, and would love your support as we continue to grow this thing. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Spreaker, Joe Savan. I don't know what that one is, but it's part of the whole deal. Literally any podcast thing you can think of, we're there.
Fans of the home team, check it out. Thank you again, and we'll see you next Wednesday.